Howdy, it's Nathan with the Shop Warrior channel. Today I'm replacing this guy. To do that, you gotta drop the fuel tank. So I'm gonna be walking you through the process to do that. Here's my 2005 Chevy Suburban that I pulled the tank off of. And here it is on the ground. I'm gonna be walking through the steps that it takes to get this thing pulled out in a safe manner. Let me orient us here. This end of the tank is on the back end of the vehicle. That's towards the front end of the vehicle. The fuel tank itself is set underneath, tucked in on the driver's side of the vehicle. So driver up there, passenger over there, and it's held in place with a bracket. You can kind of see this indented, more narrow area. So there's a bracket here and a bracket here. Here's our fuel pump. And then we have all our various hoses. Now that we're oriented with the fuel tank, let me do a brief overview of the process, and then I'll go into a detailed overview of each step. So quick overview of what you need to do to get this tank out. Number one, disconnect these 4 hoses. Here, 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 and here. Step number 2, you're gonna crawl to this end of the tank, disconnect this fuel line and that evap line. Step number 3, you're gonna have put your jack stand underneath, disconnect your strap, remove them, and then you're gonna lower it down, let this end down just a little bit, enough to be able to reach in here and disconnect this line. Once that's disconnected, you can lower it down a little bit more. You're gonna disconnect the 2 electrical plugs here, and then you'll be able to lower the tank down entirely. It's gonna be completely free. All the hoses will be disconnected at this point, electrical will be disconnected. You can lower the entire fuel tank down, remove your jack stand. This end is most likely going to still be kind of stuck up into the frame, so it will be stuck in like that. So then you'll just need to pull it out and let it down. And then when you're ready to replace the fuel pump, you will hammer this part, take out this metal ring. It'll kind of unlock like that, pull that off, disconnect these 2 lines, pull out your fuel pump, put in your new one, put on the ring, reconnect everything. So there's the process in a nutshell. Now we'll go into it in detail. One word of caution, this is a 2005 Chevy Suburban. If you have a different make or model, the exact location of these hoses may be slightly different. Where they connect might be slightly different. So what I would recommend, and this is what I did as I was taking apart these pieces, I would slowly lower it down, and as I got it down a little bit lower, I would take a flashlight and I looked from this end and I shined it around to make sure there weren't any hoses I was missing. And then I came down to this end and I did the same thing, shined the flashlight around to make sure there wasn't any hoses I was missing. You really don't want to break one of these lines. So definitely be careful as you're lowering this thing down. Make sure you got everything disconnected. Double check yours, it might be slightly different than mine. Step 1 here is going to be opening up your gas tank, pulling out the fuel cap, and letting it depressurize. If you pull off the fuel line, you don't want any gas to be spewing out or spew on your hands or face or anything. So if you open this up, that'll let some of the pressure off if any has built up. Next, you're gonna wanna crawl into the truck and you can disconnect this hose, this hose, this hose, and this hose. These 2 connect to the vapor canister, which sits in this area. This connects to the fuel inlet where you put the gas in, and this one as well. This kind of runs up alongside this main hose, and you disconnect it. It's part of the evap system. So you should be able to access and disconnect all 4 of these without lowering the tank at all. So you can access these and get these done first. Little tip on this guy. This one took me a little while to get off. This is connected to a pipe through a rubber hose that's about this long. Unscrew the clamp on this end, unscrew the clamp on this end, which will be about right here, and make sure they're nice and loose. And then I would twist this part and twist this part until they can move freely. And then once you have this moving freely, use a large screwdriver or a pry bar to get into here and push the hose off. I found that to be the easiest way, to loosen up both ends of it, so that way it can slide up over the connection point here a little bit. Once you get all 4 of these disconnected, your next step is going to be crawling to the other end of the tank and disconnecting these 2 lines. So this one and this one. This one is the fuel line. You can see here it runs straight to the pump. This is providing fuel to the engine. So be careful when you're pulling off this. In my case, I think I had a couple drops of gas come out, but that was it. And then this one is just part of the evap system. Runs to that solenoid that's mounted on top of your engine. Coming to this end, we want to disconnect this hose. There is a cross beam here that is part of the frame of the truck, and if you try to lower this without disconnecting it, obviously it's going to hit it, and you don't want to damage this or damage this connection, the hose. This is the next one that you're going to want to disconnect. You may be able to reach this without lowering the tank, but it's going to be easier to access if you lower down the tank just a little bit. So before we do this, I would grab your jack stand. I put a longer kind of wide board underneath it or on top of it, and I put it about right in the middle. So I get your jack stand, your jack in place, just pushing up against the tank just a little bit. With that in place, you can disconnect the strap here and the strap there. There's a bolt on this side, and on that side it's just got a tab thing that sits in there. You just kind of finagle it loose. Same thing over here, there's a bolt on this side, kind of the outer part of the vehicle, and on this side it's a little tab. I believe it's a 15mm bolt, and you'll want an extension to make it a little easier to get to. So disconnect the bolt, remove the strap, remove the strap. It's now supported by the jack, and on this end, it's not just going to fall out. I was kind of surprised by that. Thought with all the weight and everything, it would just kind of fall out. It really didn't. So this end of the tank is actually kind of wedged over a piece of the frame that goes across. So once you disconnect this, what it's going to want to do is come down on this end first, like that. So to actually get it out, you'll need to pull it out this way a little bit, and then it'll go down. But we're not there yet. Right now we're just removing these straps. We've got it supported by the jack, and we're going to want to let it lower a little bit. And this end, as I said, is going to want to come down. So this will come down naturally just a little bit for you. And you can just leave that end over there. Disconnect this guy. This took a little bit. Let me show you how this connector works. The idea is we squeeze it, and these little tabs there that are pointed at an angle straighten out, allowing you to slide it over this lip. Sounds easy. It is not. Especially because it's hard to access, hard to get a lot of leverage on it, you can't see it. I tried a lot of different things. I squeezed this with channel locks and vice grips. Ultimately, the thing that worked for me was using a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, to push on this, which allowed me to pinch it together and put pressure that way to slide it off. That was ultimately what broke it loose, but it does help just squeezing it with your hand and squeezing with some channel locks or something to just loosen up the plastic a little bit, to get it kind of work it a little bit. That helped. And then the screwdriver ultimately is what did the trick for me. That took a lot of time. Between that piece and that piece, that was the majority of the time. These other connectors are not so bad. But while we're talking about connectors, just show you this up close. This has the little blue insert part that you squeeze. This one you squeeze, and this one has a little blue insert on the other side. You squeeze it, and it can pop through. And then this is the same kind of connector there. Okay, so we've removed those four. Quick review: we've removed those four, disconnected those two, got our jack stand underneath. We've removed the strap. Now we get this end lowered just a little bit, and we've removed this guy. So now this beam won't interfere. And our next step is lower it a little bit more, and now we can get access to the electrical plugs on top of the fuel pump. I came in, kind of put my arm in through this area and back, and I was able to reach these. They're a little difficult to do because you can't really see them. You're just kind of doing it by feel. And let me show you here. So the piece slides on here, and it's got this little tab here that you'll need to, I believe you actually press down on it, and it opens up and allows it to slide out. This one was pretty simple. You just pull up on the tab right here, and it slides out. And there is another little extra piece. Let me grab it to show you. Right here. This little piece slides into the top of the connector. So first you slide this out. Then once that's removed, then you can press down and it allows the tab to come up and over that, and then it slides out. And then this one it's all one piece. You just lift up the tab and it slides out. These two electrical lines come in one bundle of cords that run here, and then it separates right here. And there is quite a bit of play in it, so you can lower this down a pretty good amount without causing any damage to those. All right, so once you get those removed, these you can actually leave connected until you get the tank out, since this line just terminates there, and this line goes back and terminates over there. So these lines you can leave on, you just need to remove these. So with that free, you can now lower the tank. And what I did is I put a couple of boards on this end, and I got my jack stand all the way down. I slid out the jack stand and the board that was a part of it, and got this end all the way down. Again, this part's going to be kind of stuck up in there. Then you can slide the whole tank that way, that direction. I let it land on a couple of boards, and then I pulled out the boards and let it land on the ground. And in my case, you can see here, I've got it jacked up on the front, and I was able to, so once I slid it down, fell down, I had to slide it down a little bit, and then I could get it out, because you'll notice this end of the tank sticks up a little bit, so I had to slide it that direction to where there was a bigger gap, and then I can then slide it out from underneath the car. All right, so that is the process for taking down the tank. Now to actually get this fuel pump out, you take a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, stick it in here, hit it with the hammer, and I would try working it from a few different spots, like hit it here for a bit, hit it here for a bit, hit it here for a bit, and eventually this will pop loose. And with that, you can disconnect these two lines, and you can pull it out and put in your new pump. Another thing I wanted to mention, something you should do and check while you have the fuel tank off, is the evap lines. So all these lines the air runs through, which is every hose you see here, except for that one fuel line. All the rest of them are part of the evap system. Right, so you put gas in, the air needs to escape. The air escapes through these air hoses and then goes through the evap, the vapor canister, and then out. So these lines, if that vapor canister goes bad, little bits of carbon can come out and they'll clog these lines. So while you have this down, and that's actually the second big reason why I'm doctoring the tank, is to replace that, but also to clean out these fuel lines, or evap lines rather. And you can check that once you disconnect these. If you see little black bits of carbon falling out of this, then that's a sign that you need to clean out these tubes. And if you, I've removed them, but when they were full, if I did this, kind of shook it a little bit, you could hear the little bits rattling in there. So I just took an air compressor, and after you get, you obviously want these hoses completely disconnected so nothing gets into the tank. So you disconnect that, disconnect those two lines. These are already disconnected. Put your air compressor hose, and I just went into basically every end that I could, and I kind of shook these lines a little bit, blew the air out. Definitely a good thing to check for, good little maintenance thing to do while you have this tank down. You definitely don't want to have to drop this tank a second time just to clean out those lines. So that's how you drop the tank and replace your fuel pump. Hope you found that helpful. I've got other videos on this 2005 Suburban. Be sure and like and subscribe. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.